Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome into your Friday edition of Final Whistle. As always, I'm your host, Blaine Spencer. I have a real treat for everyone. It's March Madness. It's begun. And what an opportunity for me to talk to someone who has covered March Madness and played in March Madness. I have Alyssa Charlston, former University of Idaho basketball player. She now works for Pac-12 reporter for women's basketball, as well as she's a content creator for Gonzaga men's basketball and Gonzaga women's basketball. Alyssa, thank you so much for taking some time out of your Friday to come on.
Oh, nothing better to do on a Friday than talk hoops, talk March Madness. It's all going down. We haven't had any major upsets yet, but
my bracket's busted. I'm 0-2 already. So yeah, no,
you're picking the underdogs.
Yeah, I took Colgate and that backfired on me. It's all right.
Got to go for the underdogs sometimes.
Yeah, but it happens. So Alyssa, you've had the opportunity. You've been in the NCAA tournament twice with the University of Idaho. You went against two powerhouses in Louisville and Connecticut. Just what are the emotions these players are going through at the moment on and off the court?
I mean, really, it's not too far to say that this is what you dream of when you're growing up playing, is to make it to the NCAA tournament. This is the pinnacle of college hoops. And so many don't get to have that opportunity. So, when you make it there, it's really just like you get invited to the after party of anything. Like you're there, you're cool enough, you're a big deal enough. And obviously with my experience, the cool big deal enough part was facing UConn when they won the national championship and beat everybody by like 50 or 70 points. So that, that experience was what it was. But, you get your plane chartered. All your meals are really nice. There's like the limit does not exist for your meals, and just the excitement behind it. Everybody's pumped up. It's what you worked all season long for. Your season's not over, and it's really just, it feels kind of like you're part of the club that gets to keep playing.
For sure. Is the intensity level ratcheted up another 10 notches in comparison to playing like for you in the WAC or et cetera, or playing in any other league?
I honestly don't know because the teams that make it there have that habit get day in, day out, right? I mean, maybe if you're kind of like an 8-9 or a 7, like those different kind of matchups, a 7-10, you're really, really locked in. Not like we weren't locked in. We were pumped to be playing, but we were just like, you don't want to be too over the top, too high or too low. And I think the teams that do get too high and go into these games like they've never been here before, maybe some of them haven't, those are the ones that kind of get burned early. You get too hyped, too excited. I think there has to be like a good in between, and that's a coach's job. That's your leaders on the team's job. So I think coming in with a level head, just trying to stay as consistent as you can, be who you are. That's the way to approach it.
Yeah, and for you, from year 1 to year 2 into the tournament, was there a different mentality that you guys tried to bring in using that first year as a learning experience? I mean, you didn't get, it was UConn. When they were dominating the entire country. So what did you try to take in from that game to try and take into the Louisville matchup?
Yeah, it was totally different. Even from like the selection show, it was like, even though we'd only done it one time, it was like, that's the norm. Okay. Like we're doing this again. We're not going to be crazy surprised. And you're still celebrating, you're pumped, but we knew we were in because we were a conference champion. So we actually were kind of bummed that we weren't a 13 seed that year. We were a 14, and we had to go against the best 3 seed, who everyone thought Louisville should have been a 2 seed, or, like, it was like, of course that works out. Everybody has their story about like what they can complain about, but yeah, everything was just more normal. And practices, there wasn't that, day or 2 or 3 of like, wow, we're going to the big dance. Like we're playing, we get these new shoes, everybody gets new Nikes, and like, we got way better shoes the second year around. The first year it looked like we were like safari stomping through mud and like this weird gold color. So that wasn't great. Second year was awesome. And we were in Iowa instead of Storrs, Connecticut, which is still a great stadium, great arena to play in, but it wasn't quite the same of like the palace of women's basketball over in Storrs, Connecticut. So everything was a little bit more level playing field, a little bit. And obviously Louisville went on, I think, I think they made the national championship that year.
Yeah, I think it was I think they've made the Final Four for sure, if I'm not mistaken.
Baylor, I think that was when they lost to Baylor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Notre Dame, I think they lost to Baylor. Yeah, Baylor, Notre Dame. Okay. I don't know. That's off the top of my head. But for you, now that you've transitioned, now taking a different angle of everything, being a Pac-12 analyst and now being a content creator for Gonzaga Athletics, what, especially as a basketball analyst, what do you try? What kind of mentality do you try to bring in onto the court when you're trying to analyze a game?
I try to see what coaches want their players to be doing and what players, how well they're kind of, I guess, executing that. Because for me, like naturally, I'm more of a people pleaser. That's kind of like my MO. And I was definitely that way with my coach, wanting to make sure we executed everything and carried out the game plan that he set out. Obviously, there's times where you get a little freestyle and you get to do your own thing and just try to read the defense, do what you want to do to win a game. But for me, I'm really looking at like what a player does. And if it looks wrong to me, I'm immediately looking at the coach to see if I'm correct on if that player did something wrong. The cool thing that I love is like seeing coaches that are totally different from my coach. So like we really emphasized efficient, smart offense, going through your progressions, and then defense was pretty strategic because we were always undersized. When we went against, a non-mid-major team, when we went against Power 5 teams, we were usually undersized, so we had to be a little bit more strategic. So we weren't like in your face press. No one's ever accused me of playing great defense. So he didn't recruit me for playing great defense. He recruited me mostly for offense. And when I see coaches and teams that are like pressing heavily in your jersey in the passing lanes, I'm like, that coach, is different from John Newley. So it's really interesting to see how they coach and where I can learn. So I love to look at coaches' reactions and obviously down low play, post play. I was kind of a slasher. So I'm looking at, small forwards, power forwards, kind of what they're up to. But a ton of preparation. Most of the preparation goes beforehand. Like what is everybody's tendency? And then trying to see if they fulfill those tendencies during the game. If they're not, why? And try to be able to report that. But once we talk about the Pac-12 tournament, trying to be a sideline reporter right now is weird. It's tough.
Yeah. How much of a difference was it for you, especially during that Pac-12 tournament?
Well, the funny thing is, this was my first time being an actual sideline reporter. I had only done color analysis. So getting the trust, I guess, but obviously it's a lighter role than color analysis because you don't have to be talking the whole time. I couldn't get within 6 feet of huddles and their masks are on. Coaches' masks are generally on. Sometimes they take them down for a second. I'm like, please, please, please keep it down. But also you want them to be safe. So it's like balance. And then you have music and it's just hard to hear. Sometimes you're like guessing and you obviously can't report something that you're guessing on. Right. So I had to say like, hey, I couldn't get anything there. Literally couldn't hear a thing. So it's the distance, making sure coaches are comfortable with you too. Cause I was working with 12 different coaches, all 12 teams were there. And I let them know like, hey, I'll be farther than 6 feet. I have my Connects on thing that told me beeping at me when I was too close. So yeah, it was tough. It really helped to know basketball. I'll say that, seeing plays and stuff like that.
I'm praying for the masks to stay down so you can read some lips too. Just hoping that you can take a wild guess and say, oh, that kind of looks right in my eyes.
Right. I've realized how much I lip read, which is new to me. I didn't realize how much I did that before.
And for you, I mean, you got to interview Tara Vanderveer after they were able to cut down the nets. Just what kind of experience was that, being able to talk to her and just break down what they were able to accomplish, and now a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament as well?
An honor. Honestly, that's all I can say, to be around someone and several coaches in that league that have had so much experience, so much success, and just so selfless as well. Cause I got to see her coach a practice and that I had like chills for like a whole 45 straight minutes just because I'm like, it's Tara Vanderveer, like if you're in women's basketball, she is one of the greatest minds there's ever been. She's the winningest coach in college basketball history for women. So honestly, the night preparing before it, because in October, because of pandemic, because of COVID stuff, my contract couldn't be renewed at my old station. And I love them. They're so wonderful. They tried everything they could to keep me as long as they could. But I was kind of like this, like, the Michael Jordan guy, like in that The Last Dance for a different reason. Like, I don't know what to do with my life. And I knew I had the confidence to find something eventually, but I knew I'd have to be patient. And the night before that championship, when I was preparing to potentially interview Tara Vanderveer or Corey Close at the end of a Pac-12 championship, I was like,
Mhm.
it's just crazy how things happen like that. It makes me emotional to think about, because if you have kind of a faith in what you've done and like where you've come from, and obviously I'm someone has a pretty strong faith as well, um, looking out for those opportunities, having them come to you, it was insane. And then Tara was so cool. She's so chill. She's always like,
She
after the
is.
first
She's
one,
awesome. I
she's so
grew up
cool.
in the Bay Area, so I've been to a couple Stanford games, and like
Yeah.
just her like after games, just like she's totally with the crowd. Like it's incredible to see.
Oh, that's so cool. I've never seen in Maples Pavilion or anything, but she made a speech after that championship win to the fans and like saying like how important you guys are to us. And you could just see like that's really cool. I bet the Bay Area and like Palo Alto in general has such a strong connection to her, and why not be connected to one of the most successful women's basketball programs in history.
No doubt. Usually I was at the Cal game though, because those were the cheaper tickets though. Sorry, Cal Berkeley, I love you, but
I'll get there.
yeah, exactly. But continuing off of that, what are your being able to cover the Pac-12? What are your expectations for these schools in the NCAA tournament? Like Washington State, like they're projected dead last in the Pac-12, and now they're going to be in that 8-9 matchup. Actually, in Gonzaga's bracket, ironically enough. So that could be a potential Sweet 16 matchup. A little confliction right there for you potentially.
Yeah, some fun local vibes going on, and they didn't get to run into each other in the regular season. They usually play in the regular season, and I think the game got canceled or postponed. I'm not sure what happened, but they usually run into each other early on in the season, and that would have been fun to see, because Washington State, like you said, surprised everybody, and it's truly because, I mean, they've got a lot of talent, but two players have really lifted them up and spread, like it's Charlize Leger-Walker, really the surprise of the country. I mean, freshman, just a killer, and such a killer instinct, so much patience, so much poise. If anyone listening wants to see an incredible basketball player and something different than what we see normally, watch Charlize Leger-Walker. But I'm so excited to see how the Washington State Cougars do. I think they have a tough task in Florida, South Florida, because they're very athletic. But if they can control the Bulls from three, I think they'll be fine. They have more scoring options offensively. Stanford, I truly expect it to be probably UConn and Stanford in the championship. And I give the edge to Stanford. I've seen them more, so that's totally my, that's maybe a little biased, but they're more experienced. UConn's very young, and they're led in so many categories by Paige Beckers, and she's a freshman. And I think Stanford has someone to slow her down. UCLA, we'll see how they do. I think they can get Sweet 16, and Arizona, they weren't playing their best basketball at the end of the season. So we'll see. I think the Pac-12 will definitely make mostly second round. Some will make third round, a Sweet 16, and then Stanford, I expect to go all the way.
So Stanford, your pick taking over UConn, that would be your championship pick?
Yep.
All right, I actually took UConn over Stanford, ironically enough. Yeah,
okay.
Well, I also went to Seton Hall, so I'm in New Jersey, so I'm all over the country, so I understand a little bit of all the styles that UConn brings. Paige Beckers, I've seen a lot of her games. She's special too.
Phenomenal.
It's no doubt she's going to be the number one overall pick whenever she's able to leave.
Totally. And she's only going to get better. She's so good.
Yeah. And what do you think about your Zags? Your Zags, they're the 5 seed. They got they're stuck in that little 5-12 game that every team kind of dreads. But for me, in my bracket anyway, I have you guys in the Sweet 16, then losing to NC State. But what are your expectations for the Gonzaga ladies?
I honestly I would have a similar projection. I think if they get to the Sweet 16, they're beating NC State, because NC State is the weakest 1 seed, in my opinion. Sure. In terms of resume, they were killer in the ACC tournament. So impressive to watch them take down Louisville. But that 12 seed is not an easy team. Belmont is, they're a 20-win team. They've been to the tournament 5 of the last 6 years. Experience helps so much in those situations. So I think Gonzaga's defense and rebounding are what drives them this year. It's not like they're going to put up 80, 90 points a game. They are so good and so disciplined on defense and rebounding. And guess what travels? Defense and rebounding. So I think teams that rely on the three heavily aren't going to do, they'll either upset or have trouble. And I think Gonzaga is definitely a Sweet 16 team.
Yeah, does that does that championship buzzer beater to win the title carry a little bit of momentum for them?
I think so, big time. It just like everything looked as bad as it possibly could, and they've had 3 straight years of like some sort of crazy devastation at the WCC tournament. Like 3 years ago, it was Laura Stockton and Jill Townsend, season-ending injuries, leg break, ACL, like awful. So 2 of their best players, and then they don't get to win the championship. The next year, they're upset in the semis by Portland, and they don't even get to play in the championship. And this year, the day before the championship, like 8 of them get sick, serious sickness. Like Jill Townsend, 0 points until that buzzer beater. It was insane. And no fans were in there, which was so weird, but they created their own energy. And I think they needed that kind of like energy boost because they kind of rolled through the WCC for the most part. BYU definitely challenged them, but gives them a little excitement, a little edge heading into San Antonio.
Definitely. Well, let's jump to the men's side now. I mean, the men are playing right now. So what are some games that you're really keeping your eye on? And for me, I've got Gonzaga as my national championship. I do national championship and champion. And I think because like there's just the aura, 1976, Duke, Kentucky don't make the tournament. Last time an undefeated team won a national championship. Just like, I think all the like parallels are lining up, just like straight down for the Zags. And you guys have a very special squad. I think the addition of able to have an Andrew Nembhard play right away and Jalen Suggs willing to accept that role of taking a little bit less minutes has been a real pivotal stride for you guys. What are your expectations on the men's side and for your Zags?
Yeah, I think you're totally right with Nembhard. He's a guy that would be the most important player on just about any other team in the country this year. He was ready for it. Like he was obviously an all SEC player and came over to Gonzaga. And I don't know if you saw this part of Mark Few's press conference, but he talked about talking to Jalen Suggs about, like, hey, this guy,
I did.
Yeah, him being eligible. And he was like, are you cool with that? And Jalen was like, smiled and was like, yeah, of course. Like we want to win. And that just shows the competitiveness and the selflessness of this team, because every team goes through, and you saw it with Gonzaga, like you struggle with who's going to step up each night, who's going to get the attention. Everybody's human. You see it a little bit with that team, but like compared to other teams that would have that kind of talent, it wouldn't be feasible. Like the coach that's at the top doesn't recruit players that put my stats above the team. And you see that with Jalen. Like Jalen's going to be a top 2 draft pick. And most people say number 1, but he doesn't have these crazy, amazing stats. Like he's got nice stats, but you're on the best team in the country. He doesn't care about that. You like have to show all the other things and be a facilitator, be an energy guy. And this team also doesn't rely on the 3 and doesn't rely on like crazy, insane hot shooting from deep. They're just efficient and they kill you with efficiency over and over and over again. And if they're playing decent defense as a team going against them, you have to put up 85 to 95 points if you're going to beat them. Like their lowest scoring game was in like upper 70s. Most of the season they were in the 90s. So the other crazy thing is you look at their bracket and they've already beaten their 2 seed, their 3 seed, their 4 seed. Like they've already, taken care of them.
They got a great draw. It's absolutely ridiculous how good of a draw Gonzaga got.
Yeah, it is insane. I don't think you could ask for much better, but I'm excited to see how Kansas shows up. I'm excited to see, like what they end up looking like at this time of the year. Iowa, if they can turn things around with their defense a little bit, pick it up. And obviously I'm really excited to see how Baylor does. And I think Illinois is just a team that's just so exciting, so fun. I don't know how consistent they are, but I think of all those teams playing at their best, and I still see, and it's not just me being biased, like this team is the best team in college basketball I've ever seen with my own eyes.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, what are for the West bracket? I mean, in Kansas and Virginia both had the COVID pause. Like Virginia just got in this morning into Indiana
tomorrow.
Yeah, and they play tomorrow. And Kansas came in, I think, either yesterday or the day before that with like what are your expectations for them? Are they even going to show up? They might not. They might just lay eggs just because of not even being able to practice or even do a shoot around before these games even start.
The thing that makes me not worry about them so much is their coaches. I mean, Self is going to have his team at least ready to go against that first game. I mean, the weird thing is, I mean, we know Eastern Washington is their matchup, and Eastern Washington is tough. But I was talking to their broadcast guy just earlier this week, and he was like, it kind of depends on who Kansas decides to play. If they decide to go really big, that gives Eastern maybe a better chance because they can kind of match up with that, and they don't have to speed up as much. But if Kansas goes with a smaller lineup, more athletic lineup, that's going to be tough at every, 1 through 5, and they're going to be able to run like crazy. So I really wonder, you talked about like, did they have one positive test? I think they confirmed like one.
Kansas had 2, but McCormick tested positive before the Big 12 even started. So okay. McCormick's going to be back, I think, from what I've heard. But
maybe in like a slightly different shape for sure. That no matter what, I mean, even if you are slightly asymptomatic, you're still experiencing being away from the team and not practicing at full speed. So I think they'll be a step behind, but I don't worry. And I really don't worry about Tony Bennett's squad initially. I think as they get later on, watching them against Gonzaga, they just didn't have the offense firepower to keep up with teams.
Mm-hmm. Is there any matchups that you want to really see, or do you think there's any potential upsets that you see that are and on the women or men's side that you want to see?
Let's see.
I know UConn Stanford's like the cherry on top for the title at least on the women's side.
Yeah, I would like to see, just because I've followed Washington State all year long, I would love to see them get past South Florida, and I'd love to see them against NC State. If they can take, I mean, it would be really tough. They have to be playing their absolute best. But Washington State has taken down number 7 Arizona. They took down number 5 UCLA, and that's better than, I mean, that would be right around, technically NC State would be like the number 4th team in the country right now. So I think they can do it on a neutral court. I just really want to see Gonzaga, Illinois, or Gonzaga, Baylor. Obviously that would have to be later on, but I want to see all these teams, because I didn't go to Gonzaga. I don't have that, I'm not a Zag to my heart, but I have respect for this team, this program, like crazy. And so when I see people constantly discounting, like they don't play anybody, they were the first team in forever to take down 4 top 15 teams in their first 15 games. They're playing.
And West Virginia was the only team that actually gave them a game.
Yeah.
Out of those 4 teams.
The only team that has stayed within
single digits.
Yeah. Wild. And that was when Jalen Suggs didn't play 15, 16 minutes because he came out with an injury.
And with that, when the world paused on that ankle injury.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that was awful.
Yeah. Still, you just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. It could have changed the entire season, but he's a tough kid. That dude, he scares you now. He scares you all the time because he hustles. He puts his body out there. He plays like a football player out there. So he's just tough. And when he goes down, it's like, okay, he'll be fine. He's able to step back up.
Yeah. And from what I've been doing in my NBA draft prospect stuff, I have Jalen actually as my 3rd prospect. I have Cade at 1 just because he does it all. And I think just because of the lack of minutes, I think stats does a lot though for draft stock as well, which is unfortunate for Jalen because he's got all the tools and measurables. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's Jalen, one of the Ignite players. I can't remember off the top of my head from the G League. They've really impressed me. It was either Jalen Green. I think it's Jalen Green. Okay. So those 3 guards. I'm a very guard oriented guy as I played guard when I played basketball. So I really watch that stuff.
Well, there's good guards in this draft. And I'm with you on Cade Cunningham. He's had to put the team on his back several times for Oklahoma State. And Jalen hasn't had to do that. He hasn't had to prove it. Could he? I'm sure. But consistency wise, I've seen Cade go off, and I think Jalen is more of a distributing guard. He's more of an incredible passer, reader. He changes an offense, but not as much by scoring. And scoring guards are popular. They're trendy.
Mm-hmm. So I have some fan questions actually that they wanted to ask you. So first one is always usually the same one that I get from the same guy. He's not a sports journalist. He doesn't have a sports journalist background, but he always went to a sports reporter, what advice could you give to someone that's trying to immerse themselves into the sports journalism field?
I would say don't be intimidated to ask people for opportunities. If you have an idea, don't hold back on it. You've got to, nothing's going to be given to you, right? And you have to prove yourself. You have to give yourself a platform to prove yourself. And a lot of stuff you're going to have to take not great pay for the opportunities you want. Like for Indianapolis, I might have to pay part of my own way there, like, because I want to go, I want to be there, I want to experience that, and I would say, like, the reason why I got the Gonzaga job is because I reached out to them. I wanted this position. So I would say, definitely reach out for opportunities that you want. And if you do that consistently, instead of just sitting back on your laurels and waiting for something to come to you, something's going to pop up and your hard work will pay off. The other thing is, like what we're doing right now, listening to podcasts, listening to different opinions, different insight, staying up on everything. Cause it's so hard to, like, I was nervous. I was like, is he going to ask me a lot about NBA? Because I have not been, I know who's lead, and I know Utah is killing it. I know that, like the surprise is Phoenix is like second in the Western Conference, which is awesome. Brooklyn, we'll see how they do. Like, and Anthony Davis is out, but I don't know as much as I normally do because I've been following college basketball so heavily. Is Anthony Davis back, by the way? Am I wrong about that?
No, he's not back yet. I think they're going to really just hold, from people, the sources that I have, they're going to hold him out as long as possible until they really need to put him back in.
Okay,
so,
makes sense.
Because they're trying to avoid the whole Golden State Warrior Kevin Durant situation. You
Yeah.
don't want, if you have that happen again, to now a second superstar, the NBA is going to look really bad, especially from a trainer's perspective. So
that's true. That's true. So yeah, I guess my main advice would just be as versatile as you can. Don't limit yourself to one league or one thing, and write as much as you can too. Like get out, get opportunities by working your tail off.
For sure. And for me, it's all, I usually try to say, embrace the grind. Like, this is not your 9-to-5 job. You will, like, for me, like occasionally, like I also cover for SB Nation for college football. So just sometimes you're up at 2 a.m. in the morning to write a story when something breaks, or you're up till you're watching football all day, then something happens and it completely changes the story that you were gonna have written beforehand. So it's always, if you can embrace what's going on around you, you're going to be completely fine. And again, take advantage of any opportunity, like podcasts and the way sports journalism or sports broadcasting has developed now, and so much, even in the last 10 to 15 years, like it's been absolutely crazy. There's so much more that you can do. Like we're having a conversation for a podcast over Zoom right now. Like that was never like imaginable to be even hypothetical. So
true.
Always got to embrace that grind. All right. So next question was, this is you could give me a yes or no or whatever you want. Does Gonzaga win a game by under single digits? That was the next question. Because this guy, he thinks it's going to be a double. They're going to run through the tournament.
Yeah, I think they will win a game by single digits, but I think it's going to take until Elite Eight.
Iowa? Do you think it's going to be Iowa?
Oh, shoot. I didn't realize that was Elite Eight.
Iowa, Kansas, USC.
Final Four then. Yeah, right. Final Four then.
Final
Four. Right. Definitely beating Iowa by more than, they were up by like 30 against Iowa.
And then there was just scrub time at that point.
Yep.
And then the last question, this was kind of ironic. They were bringing up your Luxembourg career. And the guy did his research. Pretty impressive.
Love it.
He asked, what was the difference in the game for you playing in Europe? The difference of the culture, was the gameplay, the game style any different for you? And then why did you leave? That was his second part of the question.
Wow. Well, shout out to this guy. Great question. And thanks for doing the research. So appreciate it. I think about this all the time, actually, because there were two things that really were way different when I got over there. I got called for so many travels in those first like 4, 5, 6 games, because the rip drive where you're like, catch the ball and you put the ball down at the same time as you're dribbling is a travel. They call it every single time. You literally, and this is every coach's nightmare in America, you have to swat the ball down if you're like on a fast break. I'm not kidding. If you're like, if the ball's coming this way, you have to pat it down with one hand or two hands, because if you catch it and then dribble, they call you for a travel every single time. It's infuriating.
Oh my goodness.
And then the other thing is fouls. So like Americans, like Luxembourgish people love Americans, but you get called for pretty much everything ticky-tack early on. And the Luxembourgish local girls, they get to be physical pretty early on. So like, usually you're matched up against, the other American. Like I always went up against like the USC girls or Texas girls in my league, and it was very physical. But yeah, you got to try to get on Luxembourg refs' good sides early on. But I left because I was kind of unsure if I wanted to play in Europe initially, because I was really tired. Like it was an exhausting season. It was so much fun that we won the WAC championship and played on, but there were a lot of it was a high emotion season. And I was like, I think I'm done. But then I was like, there's no way I can pass up this opportunity. So I played, we won the national championship. And I was like,
yeah, I did see that you crazy. You won 2 trophies in like what, 3 or 4 months, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the cup, that's the other yeah, they have like a cup, and then they have like the championship.
Wow.
So, yeah, you're talking like, I guess
Europe really loves to put out their trophies, as many as possible.
Lots of trophies, lots of winners, no participation trophies. I won't go that far, but they love to have as many championships as they can to celebrate, because they love champagne. They love shaking that stuff up and celebrating with champagne.
How long did you stay over there, if you don't mind me asking?
It was a 9.5-month season. So I got there in August, and I didn't leave until May, end of May. Yeah.
And this was right after your senior year at Idaho?
Yeah. So I graduated May of 2014, went overseas, okay. August of 2014, came back May of 2015.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's a long time to be away from home, and like on a different time zone. At that point, Netflix was still figuring out how to be overseas, how to like give access overseas. Like that's how long ago it feels. It was 2015. So yeah, it could be very lonely. That was another reason why I was kind of like, I loved my teammates. They were incredible, but we won the national championship. I felt like I needed to get started in my career in America, and yeah, one and done, got the trophy, bounced.
Hey, not a bad way to wrap it up over there. Ended it on top, say, I'm not touching it again. See you later. Yeah.
Hang up the cleats for good. Cleats.
Cleats, sneakers, whatever, sandals. The list goes on. Lastly, we were talking about this before we got started. The whole NCAA, it's been trending the past 24 hours now, with Oregon's Sedona Prince. I know you mentioned that you saw it from the Stanford trainer as well, where you got it. And ESPN and all the major sports companies have picked this up, with the NCAA women's tournament not having any sufficient weights for the teams, while the men have a whole almost like facility in there, basically. And in the video that Sedona shows, like, you can see how there is the same amount of space in the room to have the same amount of equipment, and the NCAA is trying to cover it up. It looks absolutely awful on their part. I wanted to get your take, because you said you had something to share on it.
Yeah, I think their response was pretty embarrassing, because they said they don't have enough space to make it happen. Come on, like they showed the pan, like Kia Sedona Prince showed the pan of the place around the weights that only went up to 30, and there were 2 each, 2 30s, 2 25.
Sanitized yoga mats. That was the
sanitized yoga mats. Yeah, because that's all we do as females, right? We just do yoga. That's it. Especially athletes. Like, it's so frustrating, but it's also cool to see so many male athletes come to the side of women and like say, like, this is absolutely not okay. What is this? Sabrina Ionescu called it out on Twitter and Instagram. Kelsey Plum commented on it, saying, like, what is this? Is this a joke? Like, yes, you lost a lot of money. The NCAA lost over $600 million by not having a tournament last year. But you're going to try to cut corners by violating directly like Title IX procedure? That blows my mind, that you're going to give an entire Gold's weight room to the men, and not even a nice enough, like, to call like a hotel fitness room, maybe half of a hotel fitness room to the women.
And now I wouldn't even consider that half of a hotel fitness room. No. That's just the bare minimum that they probably mustered out, and they were just like, okay, we can potentially get away with this. It's right. Perfectly okay. And I think the NCAA is a huge, Mark Emmert is, I I would rant about him for about 30 minutes just because I can't stand him. But he's also cutting all the smaller sports on women and men's sides. Like
Yeah.
the money issue is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. Like if you're actually for the student athlete, and now because of the whole likeness situation that's come out, they're almost that's going to start hopefully in the next year or two.
Yeah.
That they say it's not money, but it's all about money, and they need to have control. Like if it's not
Yes.
in their controlled environment, it does not bode well for them. And this is absolutely pathetic on the NCAA's part. I mean, I hope that this will finally make that push, that they can actually be some equality that needs to be there. So
Yeah. Well, it's just if you want there to be equality, if you're going to pretend like you're pushing for equality and people to watch women's basketball as much as men in the college sports realm, and you're not going to back it up with easy equality. I mean, you get people to bring in equipment, you find ways, you make that happen. You're just not putting, you're not even putting a quarter of the amount of money where your mouth is. You're literally creating a bigger disparity by letting that happen, giving them weights, giving them all the ample opportunities. And I'm very curious. I will definitely be asking Gonzaga women how everything else is going on in that bubble, what else they get compared to what the men are getting.
for sure. And I will be the first one to be reading it to hopefully get the inside scoop, hopefully.
Yes.
Alyssa, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your Friday. I know it's a little hectic for you with both tournaments starting up. So again, thank you so much for joining Final Whistle. It's been my pleasure.
Oh, it's been my pleasure to be on. Thank you so much. It was a fun conversation.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can do it again soon. Everyone, enjoy your weekend. The madness has started. Go watch some college basketball on the men's and women's sides. All right. It's going to be a great tournament. Enjoy your weekend.